Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Oh, yes, and we're back for another lovely week of fun in this. Actually, it's gotten cold in Los Angeles. You notice, Ethan? Kind of chilly.
It has gotten
kind of chilly. Is John around? Where's John?
John's here.
Are you here,
Good
John?
morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. I thought I'd bring you in early this week instead of rambling on about stuff. You know. How is it in where you're at? Did you have a good a Halloween?
I did, and honestly, we're having beautiful weather right now. It's in the 70s, which for this time of the year in southern Indiana is pretty incredible. It's been beautiful, sunny and warm.
Well, you're lucky because it got chilly here. I think everybody's beginning to get colds on it. So my kids came down with something. My wife came down with something. I'm trying to fight off something. So it's always fun when winter arrives. You know, they like
great weather for the kids for Halloween.
Yeah,
it was great.
I know. But we've had. So you had a good Halloween. I took my kids out. I sent a few pictures out actually.
I did. My friends hosted a party for all of the kids, you know, all of my friends and their kids. So it's always fun to be Uncle John and see all these great kids running around with their creative costumes, and it was good. It was really good. Well, how was yours, Ethan?
Excellent. It was a blast. Actually, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of stuff?
Did I or did John?
Yeah, did you do a lot of stuff? Did you go trick-or-treating?
Yes, I do my whole house was haunted. There was a nice cemetery out front that we actually went to painstaking detail to light properly. And then I had, Sean invited her friends over for some trick-or-treating and a Halloween potluck party like we do every year. And my mom stopped by, as well as some of the people that work at Combat Radio. So it was a little bit of craziness, but it was all fun.
Yeah, a little bit of crazy. We were going to come by, but we actually...
you had better things to do?
Yeah, I had much better things to do, yeah. You know, but... No, I wouldn't say that.
Were your decorations stolen this year?
No, not this year. We actually went to the mall where they had all the stores were doing trick-or-treating.
And how was that?
That was actually fun. I mean, it was exhausting because walking around up and down and up and down and up. And my kids were so happy with having buckets full of treats and stuff.
The stores love it because they get people in their stores.
Well, I'm not so sure that kind of works.
It may not work entirely, but that is the strategy.
That's the strategy, yeah, I think that they had on that. But the other thing that happened this week was rather disturbing for me. 2 days ago, I got a call from my wife saying, "Oh my God, they've locked down the school." I said, "What do you mean they locked down the school?" I said, "Well, there's a guy threatening to shoot the principal and shoot the kids." I'm like, "What?" Yeah, my kid's school. Wow. And I'm like, and what eventually happened? It was an irate father who apparently came in. Was splitting with his wife. The principal of the school had basically offered him and his wife had offered to give him a room for a few nights or whatever, and the father took umbrance to that and started threatening. You know, so they had to lock down the kids in all the classrooms. I mean, my wife's like, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Distressing.
We're talking about kids from kindergarten and up, not exactly. It's just wrong.
And the solution with a lot of these problems, you notice, is to threaten or to kill somebody.
Well, yeah, that's the threat. But the interesting thing is one of the teachers, not this teacher, another teacher had actually said, what do you do in that certain situation? I mean, you get into an era where you lock down the school. In one of the recent shootings, one of the teachers became a hero because what she did, she locked the kids inside the cubby holes of the cabinets.
That was Sandy Hook, I think.
Exactly, and she walks out and said, no, not here, and they shot him. Shot her, and she died for it. But I mean, the other teacher's like, "What do you do? I mean, I want to live with my kids. Do I do that? How do I? You are protecting those children, and it's a tough situation to be in. So the question is, what do you do on campus? I mean, I spoke to somebody else the other day, and he said, well, I think what we should do is actually have, armed guards on school campus, outside of school campuses, checking people coming in, if that's the case. I mean,
don't think that's going to solve anything.
No, but I mean, the thing is, you have to have checks. You have to have some security of some checks. If the gun control laws in this country are not going to change, which I doubt they will, because nothing's happened after all the other incidents that have happened in the past. rest, then you have to find some way that the government pays for it. The safety of our children. You're talking about school, a place of learning, where it's dangerous for our kids to be. And I think that's something that we should be standing up and saying something about, because it's unacceptable. You can't expect to be living in terror. I mean, some of the kids, parents in our school, are saying, "Oh, well, maybe we should take our kids out of here." I mean, what does that solve?
Well, I'm not in a position to dispute the tactics of a lockdown. I'm not sure what that entails. I don't like what it sounds like.
Well, it's a lockdown. They hide the kids in certain areas, and they shut the school down. They shut the lights off, and they lock it down. That's how they lock it down.
What about
how did your kids react to that, Adrian? I mean, how?
Well, the interesting thing is most kids, they do drills on this. So and some of the teachers actually said, we don't know when the drill is real and when it's just a drill. So they just go in, and all the older kids went in. The younger kids didn't know what was going on. They're like, well, get in you got to go over here and you got to move over this direction, and So it's if the kids don't know that it's real, then great. Unless they start hearing something different, then it's just a drill for them. So hopefully that's the way they treat. And I don't think there's any trauma except for the parents. The parents are very traumatized. So,
well, you're lucky that's all it was.
Well, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I mean,
as bad as it was.
Yeah, I mean. Anyway, we're going to be talking about teaching our kids humanity and compassion. I think this actually goes hand in hand with what I'm talking about here, because, I mean, it's how you deal with certain situations. And, we had Peace Fund Poker a little while ago, and we actually interviewed some of our celebrities on the show, and I wanted to sort of play a little segment. So we promised we were going to bring you segments of the poker tournament. You'll hear that it's going to be confusing, lots of loudness in there, but there's Carl Weathers and Roger Cross.
Make it easy on yourself, Dutch.
Make it easy on yourself, Dutch.
Love Carl Weathers.
Those were both terrible Schwarzeneggers, by the way.
Well, I didn't do it.
Mine was Carl Weathers.
Mine wasn't anything. Mine just kind of repeated what John
What's
said.
the matter, Dylan? CIA got you pushing too many pencils?
Oh, gosh. Oh, he's definitely...
Let's just get to the
clip. Please, get to the clip. All right, let's play this clip.
Here we go. Come on over. Here, let's do this.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good, Eric. Good to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Woo! It rolls. I like it.
That's what we like to do. Oh yeah. We're high end here.
Mr. Weathers, right beside me, sir.
Rick Mora. Rick Mora.
Rick Mora.
Yes.
Rick Mora. Okay. Rick Mora. Where
are you from, Rick? I am based out of LA.
How are you, buddy?
I live in a hotel room and a plane most of the time.
Real good. Good to see you.
Where are you from originally?
Yes.
Yes. Peace Fund Radio. Right here.
New
Mexico region. Roger Cross and Carl Weathers joining us. So how are you guys doing today?
I feel wonderful. I'm looking forward to this tournament.
Great. Raising some money for a good cause.
Raising money for some great causes.
Have you been involved with the Peace Fund Radio before?
No, I have not. This is my first experience with it.
Well, welcome. Let's do our really focused on the kids, trying to do some things with raising water and awareness in West Africa, helping a young lady named Livy who's a paraplegic, and getting some funds for her directly.
Yeah, I've been looking up what you guys have been doing, and it's fantastic. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
No, well, we really appreciate you being part of that.
Yeah.
I know you with Wounded Warrior yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, which is an amazing organization.
Exactly.
Combat Radio, in fact, that's sort of our mission. The reason it's called Combat Radio is originally started to raise funds for disabled veterans.
Yeah.
And I think it's ventured into like something bigger.
And you said helping the kids.
Absolutely.
Ventured into bigger things.
Yeah,
helping
it's
kids
gotten
and
big.
Stuff is like that's the key, right? Because they're the start.
Carl, great to see you. So thank you so much for participating in the poker tournament.
I am so happy to be here, and have to now contend with the fact that Roger Cross is here, taking all the light. He's sucking all the light out of this room, man.
I had to admit that he did overshadow you when he sat down.
He does.
Blocked you out of the way.
I walked into this place thinking, okay, I'm going to fill the room. And then Roger walks and everybody turned from me. It was like they just abandoned me.
If that were only true.
Thank goodness thank goodness we're here for charity.
Oh, my goodness. No kidding.
That means you got to stay. You have to stay
I'm here for Roger Cross, who's here for charity. Come on.
Now, Carl, are you known for your poker skills?
I'm known for my poor poker skills. Is what I'm known for.
Then you're the one we want to play with.
Yeah,
That means you're going to spend
So
money.
we want to be at your table, in fact.
They invite me for one reason, to laugh at me, okay? To make fun of me.
I love it. Then you have a sense of humor, I take it.
I do have a sense of humor, but
that's what we need.
Let's put some gloves on.
That's what we need.
There you go.
Now maybe I can take care of some business.
All right. There we go. Okay, apparently we're doing a little selfie.
There we go.
Evidently.
Love it.
Evidently.
Okay, yeah. So
this is the thing, though. What
no,
we have to
that's-
do is
that's
if we
quality
tweet,
radio, though, my
I
friend.
believe that if we
That's true.
tweet and it's interactive, people donate. So it's really based on the numbers that are generated from our tweets and our platforms. So that's why there's a lot of selfie thing
I
going
love it.
on.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, Adrian was explaining it to me and told me how it was going. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty, it's a wave of the future.
It's a very interactive process. The
Yeah.
social media platform is huge. I can't keep up with
off
it.
the hook.
It's off the hook. But you know what? I love that it put the power back in our hands because
Yeah.
remember, there was a day and a time where we didn't have no power.
Yeah,
No, you're right.
it's so true.
And
I mean,
this
look.
has changed everything.
It has.
really
and
has. And
you-
he's giving voice to people who
That's
normally
it.
wouldn't
I
have a
was going
voice.
to say the same thing.
And
You
that's
as
the
the
biggest thing.
individual can make your statement, put it
Yep.
out there.
Unbelievable.
Good, bad, or
platform.
indifferent. You can put it out there.
Yes,
Yeah, now it really is just a matter of wanting to do something, and you do have the platform
have
to
the
do
platform
it.
to do it.
And so it's like it's no longer excuses. And what I love about this, Rick and I have been talking about it all day. Just that people, all of you guys, everyone coming out here, is not just talking; it's actually doing something.
Yeah,
We're trying to make a difference.
This may seem like fun, but we are working. This is how we give. This is what we do to
give back.
recognize those hard workers that make change in people's lives.
I mean,
But I think this also is indicative of a certain kind of person.
yeah.
That you do the kind of work that in its own way is in concert with an event like this.
Absolutely.
And, when you do that kind of work, I think that work speaks for itself, and this just underscores it.
There you go.
So it's great to be here and be a part of it.
Symbiotic, even.
I love
Yeah,
it.
well, without question.
And-
I mean,
and
on that note, I mean, how do you guys feel? Like, we're helping out the kids. I think it's such a great cause. It's just, how did that become part of your lives? I mean, just sort of the.
Well, for me, from early on, when I first became an actor in Los Angeles anyway, it occurred to me that I had two young sons, that the simplicity of it is, do I want to do something that I would not want my sons to be proud of?
Yeah.
And as a human being, man, if we maybe lived our lives that way, do we want to do things that we would not care if our kids were aware of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that, I'm like Pollyanna. But what it does mean is I'm mindful of that. Yeah. And so, that work and the way in which I do that work and the choices that I make and the things that I won't do, I think sort of, again, are in concert with something like this, doing something to help someone proactively as opposed to the opposite.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I think that's
and that's the thing, too. Like, for me, it's kind of like, as the great Whitney Houston said, children are the future, and then she got it from someone else, etc. Blah blah blah. But I think that's the key. If you can mold the minds at a young age, teach them more about love and giving, and have a more positive outlook on life, and start them young. You don't have to correct it later on, try and fix things later on when they're adults, because most of the time it's too late once they become adults. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And so you help them, the children, get them on the right path, and I think you've done your job. And you've given them a platform from which to move forward, and that's what I find fantastic.
Which begs a question. If we look at the tone of incivility that we are seeing today, what didn't those children get who are now adults, who are displaying those tones of disrespect and incivility toward other human beings on this planet? Their fellow countrymen, their neighbors, the person who looks a little different, who's visiting this country, who's looking for a place, a better life. Why are you so incivil? Why are you so disrespectful? What is it in your life that you are so bereft of that you have to attack others?
Yeah.
So, as Roger said, if we can do something that gives children a sense of love and hope, perhaps they won't become the kind of people we're seeing, our so-called leaders who are out there today.
Yeah.
I don't want to preach, but I'm
No,
preaching.
no, no,
But I'm
and
preaching.
I think it's very relative that not yet. It's really relevant that we teach the kids how to put the human back in humanity, because this is the space that has built too much of a gap that children aren't taught the human elements.
Exactly.
And here we are being humanitarians, and they say, what are you going to do to make a change? And how can you make a change? And we start with the children.
Yeah,
and you mold them, you instill in them the value of human life.
Yes,
all
love
over
and
again.
respect.
Can I
over again.
Can I tell you?
Please.
I'll try to make this story really brief.
Love it.
Only
You don't
because
have to be brief,
because
my man.
well, no, I'm going to try because my brother sitting next to me is one of the First Nation members, right? So I was in Canada, and this is many years ago, and I went fishing, salmon fishing, and I was in BC, and we went onto the land of First Nations people.
Yes.
They invited us, let us go. At the time I was playing professional football. And the generosity was there. We caught nothing. On our way back, one of the elders stopped us, brought us over to a freezer, opened the freezer, and told us take what we want, right? Now, when he did that, just before he did that, there was a young boy there. And the young boy asked us how much we wanted to buy. The elder said nothing, but the look he gave that young boy to this day just touches me so, because what he said in one look was, how dare you disrespect
Our
people
guests.
I invited
Our
here,
guests.
our
My
guests,
guests. Yeah.
with that kind of question.
Yeah.
That spoke volumes to me about a way to behave towards others.
It's
Yes.
huge.
And
he's
respect for your
teaching-
elders.
And he's teaching
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So
One of the
you
most
know,
beautiful
nothing
things
but props,
I
man.
can identify with that is that I have been chosen. I have a chief, and I've been chosen to carry on the words of my chief. I've been chosen by a few chiefs, so I know that I've been blessed with this gift. And a lot of people ask me, how do you learn from your chief? How do you learn? And I always say, I learn in silence.
There you go. There you
Because
go.
if he has to talk to me about something, then I am not paying enough
Yeah.
attention.
Not paying attention.
And I
You're
haven't
missing
been
it.
learning.
You're missing it.
And
There
so
you
I
go.
get chills when like the goosebumps when I tell you
hear
this.
you. I
People
hear
say
you.
to me, "How do you learn from him?" And I say, "I learn in silence."
And that's a
that's my
great
elder.
quote.
Yeah,
Learn in
so-
silence.
Well,
Guess
also-
what? I'm carrying that one with me.
Yeah.
I'm carrying that
Oh
one.
man, I'm honored.
Yeah.
So hey,
Yeah.
Mr. Weathers, Mr.
Carl.
Cross,
Carl.
Aiden, I'm honored.
This is Mr. Cross.
I
but
am
I'm Carl.
honored to have you here. This is, I guess, my checklist.
And
of,
there you have it.
Beautiful people to meet.
Interesting. I like hearing Carl. Carl's a great guy. He's supported the Peace Fund a couple of times, and I like the idea of respect. What did he say? He wasn't preaching like, what was the cartoon character he mentioned? Not the cartoon.
He said Pollyanna.
Pollyanna. Yeah. Actually, I'm
And
going to call him Pollyanna from now
I
on.
happen to like Pollyanna. I will,
And we also heard our friend Rick Mora in there, who's been on Peace Fund Radio and Combat Radio a lot. He's a great philanthropist in the Native American community beyond. You can find him at rickmora.com, on Facebook and Twitter at Native Rick Mora. Great friend to our show.
Yeah, he's done. He's really stepped up a few times. Actually, Rick. He's awesome, and he's been on the show, and he's very vocal about stuff because he knows Ethan Dettenmaier, of course.
which could or could not be a bad thing. It depends.
Yes, it depends, really. It's like, but going back to what Carl was talking about, is the absence of respect and humanity in today's world. It kind of leads us into what we want to talk about, because every kid is really born with a clean slate. There's no, when you have a child, they have no predisposed notions of how they should act, react, or anything. It's society and what we teach them that really makes them, become the canvas that they are created into. A child gets raised by adults who choose, to paint unwanted pictures, if you like, and each one of those, teaching to hurt others is not a picture that I would want to teach my kids. And the respect as well is something that I think they need to be taught, and empathy towards others. A lot of the time, I think a lot of the issues that we have in this world are based on the fact of fear that we don't understand another culture, or we want to shut that culture down because it's not the same as our own. And when you're teaching that to kids, they begin to believe that's the way the world works, and they pass those pictures on to the next generation and the next generation, and that's why we keep making the same mistake. Yeah. I mean, really. Don't you find your kid? I looked at my kid this morning, and I looked at him and go, God, he's like me. He does things like me. Looks like me, but he does things like me. And you kind of go, they're a reflection. They're a mirror image of what we do and say. I know I say a couple of things sometimes. My kids repeat it. I'm like, oh, you shouldn't be saying that. They go, but you said it.
Yeah.
So
kids are wonderful.
95% of everything a kid learns, they learn from us pretty much, and 5% of what they learn is direct instruction. human beings are like tape recorders. Every word that's an old version, really. I mean, right now it'd be like digital MP3 players. But anyway, each word they hear, every experience, it's permanently recorded in their subconscious. So I think we have to be very fully aware of that. And children record every word we ever say. Have you ever had that? Did you ever have that with your child, Ethan? That when the child, your daughter started speaking and suddenly she's saying stuff, you're like, where did you get that from? Mm-hmm. And they've literally picked it up without you knowing it, maybe 2 months before. And you go, oh my gosh. You're nodding your head in a very interesting way at the moment.
My kid is very savvy, a bit of a genius, so she surprises me with a lot of things she says, actually. But most of it's good.
Well, I mean...
In fact, I would say almost all of it's good.
Well, this is good. I mean, then you're a model parent in that case.
Well, I wouldn't call myself a model parent. I strive to be a model parent.
I think that's, it's like the path of life. We try to tread it correctly, but it's very stony along the way, and sometimes we forget that, it's a journey, and it's not getting to the end of the journey, it's the path you take. So let's talk about respect for others, because I think that's one of the things, it's the golden rule. I mean, which is the simple rule that we've heard many, many, many times, which is do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And I know I do it sometimes. I'll scream at somebody in the car, or I'll say something, and it's because and then I go, wait a minute, if I'm doing that, then they're going to be doing the same thing back to me. And I think we have to understand that. Respect, it's not a hierarchy. There's no human being that deserves more respect and deference than another. We all are deserving of basic politeness and compassion by virtue of our inherent worth as human beings. It's as simple as that. Children must be taught that respect is the core of basic human decency. And their age is pretty irrelevant. I mean, 1 day old, 100 years old, a homeless man or a billionaire, the janitor or even the President of the United States, the worst enemy or the best friend, it's got to be respect is blanket. It doesn't matter who that is. It's one of the things I actually teach when I do my sword classes. It's respect your opponent, respect your weapon. And that's the same type of thing. Respect the grounds that you're on, respect the people that are around you.
Right.
And I think that's very, important for people to hear. Because I don't think I don't know about you, Ethan, and you, John, but a lot of the time these days I find that there is a lot of that respect of thank you and kindness in some parts is just totally lost. It's not there anymore. Or it never was. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
John?
I don't know. I mean, I do see it every once in a while. I'll never forget a moment. It wasn't very long ago. I was in the grocery store, and there was a woman handing out samples to a family, and the little boy walks up, and the woman says, "Oh, would you like a sample?" And he just snatches it out of her hand, just really, really rudely grabbed it.
Terrible, man.
And storms off without saying thank you. And the mother says to the woman handing out the samples, "Well, you better get one to his sister, or she'll get mad about it." And she didn't say thank you either. I was like,
and that is a sign of the times.
Well, no, that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about how the mother is now how she's transferred that way of being and lack of respect to her children.
Yeah. But but for every story like that, then I also witness lots of good moments of kindness from people as well. So I like to think that that goodness is still out there. It's just sometimes it's easier to pay attention or just to see the bad things than it is the good things.
And the one thing that's really interesting, there is a difference between your child disagreeing with you and disrespecting you, and I think we have to highlight that as well, because that's a crucial point. You can't think that because your kid is disagreeing with what they want, you want your child to find their own voice. My son definitely has his own voice, and totally different than my daughter. And when he does something, he's much more vehement about it, and I've got to say no. Okay, you disagree, that's okay, but you've got to say it nicely. You have to say it so that you have some respect for me and for your aunt and for your grandma and your mother and everything else. So, but it's a process. It takes a long time to stand up for themselves. Is something that you really want your kid to do.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, I want my child to stand up and say no, that's not good. But I want them to. I don't want them to say, do what you said, John, about walking away and saying no, I don't like that, and I'm walking off with it, because that's rude. and that's just not
Right.
that's not acceptable in my household, and and the people that I know. The other thing is actually interesting. You talked about a parent, John. I mean, what would you guys do if a child is disrespectful to you? Would you say something to the child? Would you let it go? Would you say something to the parent? What would you be your approach to it?
Are you asking me or John?
Both of you, in a sense. I mean, because it's tricky. Some parents, a child at a playground, a child does something wrong at the playground. Some parents take it on themselves to physically take the kid and say, "No, you're not supposed to do that." Blah blah blah, right in front of the other parent. Now, is that right?
It depends.
Okay, on what?
Depends on the situation.
And what would be the situation?
It depends on how you work.
Where is it? Where is it acceptable?
Well, it's acceptable at school, obviously.
To actually reprimand a child.
A teacher should be allowed to reprimand a child.
Absolutely, I agree totally with you. But if a child is doing something wrong, if you see a child doing something wrong, do you physically go up there and make sure that you step in and do it, or do you say to the parent who might be nearby, if the parent is nearby?
Well, there's all kinds of exceptions to this. I mean, I coached my daughter's soccer team in the spring, and if kids, said something negative, I would stop, even with their parents there at practice, and say, "We don't talk like that here."
That's
right.
yeah. Well, you're the coach. They've gone there to be. You're the actual parent of all of them.
But I would also say that in my house, if some kid said something disrespectful, I would say we don't talk like that here. I mean, there's situations where you can, depending on how you word it, I think, and what your agenda is, you can talk to a kid about something.
Because it's interesting. I've watched I've watched a lot of parents, mothers usually, because the father's not necessarily there, but they are so defensive of their child.
Yeah, and if the kid's acting up, the parent's probably not doing part of their job in the first place, depending on what the offense is.
Yeah, I mean,
like John's case, I mean, the parent is clearly not teaching basic manners 101.
Right. That is true.
It's like, what are you going to tell the parent? What's the parent actually going to convey? They're not doing it in the first place. So maybe the person should hear, "Hey, would you mind, please, or thank you with this?"
Yeah, I agree. But again, there's levels of taking it to.
I think there's situations, and there's the diplomatic tone of the occasion all weigh into your discussion here.
John, what do you think?
I don't know. And again, it's
not
difficult.
Being a parent
it's difficult
tough.
for me, not being a parent myself. It's difficult for me.
So what would you do? Not being a parent, you see a kid, doing something to another kid. Would you say to the kid, how would you react to that situation?
I would actually tell probably both. If I saw a kid push another kid down, I'd probably say, "Hey, don't push," and I would tell the parent, "Your kid is pushing this kid."
Right.
And I would.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. If you see one kid, jump another kid, then yeah, you need to step in
and I always
try to break that up. But the situation in the grocery store, my reaction was just to kind of stand there and look at the situation and think, wow, that's pretty awful. Yeah. But to actually say something to the woman, it's like, hey, you should teach your kids better. It's not really my place.
Well, you wouldn't say it like that anyway, I don't think. I mean, you can't really. I mean, that's probably the ship has sailed on that one, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting you just said something, John, that it's not your place. Now, that but teaching respect, I mean, children don't know boundaries a lot of the time. They basically say what they think and they do what they think, and unless somebody says, no, that's not correct, then they'll keep on doing it. And some parents let their kids do things that I think are, disrespectful or not acceptable.
Lazy parenting, I call it.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, how do you, and if you're there and you are, what's the word? You're in the middle of your child sort of being. I mean, I've seen a parent manhandle another kid. No, you're not supposed to do that.
That's unacceptable. You should never manhandle a child.
No, I mean,
that's
no, but I mean, if a kid does something, you got to, I think you do have to step in and let them know there are boundaries.
Yeah, politely, exactly.
John's
in a kind of a no-win situation because even if he was right to make a suggestion, the mom probably would have gone berserk on him.
Yeah, moms are tigers. I mean, it's interesting. I just went to my daughter's.
How dare you tell my kid not to spray paint?
Well, yeah, but see, to take that one step further, if you say something to the mother, then she would snap back, and that teaches the kid that their behavior then is okay, because if I act this way and my mother doesn't correct me and she defends me from someone who's trying to correct the situation, then that just reinforces that behavior and that rudeness is normal and okay, and that's the sad circle of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the funny thing is I also watch parents. A lot of mothers, especially mothers, are tigers. I mean, they're fierce when it comes to protecting their children, as well as fierce when their children are not doing what they think their children should be doing,
and
such as learning or saying something in the school. I've witnessed mothers be very upset with their child because they're not reciting the right thing properly. And I sit there going, wow.
I've seen extreme craziness on all, You're going to have a kid. If the kid's involved in a school or social activities or sports, you're going to see parents of sports in particular. You're going to see parents of all kind of colors, so to speak.
It's interesting. I'm just looking at something here. Research basically indicates that children learn to respect others when they're treated with respect themselves.
I believe that,
and I think that's true. If you slap a kid or do something, I think that's really going to be showing them, like we just said, like John just said, like you just said, that we're showing them this is the way that you should behave. You've got constant criticism of a child or negative comments about him or her, and failure to praise their achievements can lead them to be disrespectful of others because of the way that you've treated them. So I think that's a key thing that we have to really be very aware of. Compassion. How many people have compassion? It's a saving grace of humanity. That's what makes us who we are. And like Carl Weathers was talking about that earlier in the clip, when he was saying about, what is it that really torments you that you have to be that particular way towards another human being? You obviously are lacking something, or you need to achieve something in your life, because it's to have that basic human compassion, which is what makes us human. Really, I think that's one of the biggest thing. When you remove that from society, that society will totally run into becoming the dustbin of history, where our kids are basically surrounded by narcissism and sarcasm. So whether it's spiritual or a secular force, there's a highly persuasive pressure to ignore human suffering. We're being taught compassion for the earth and for things, but not for people. And I think we have to really also look at that. We're trying to save the planet. Well, we should also be saving our people and our respect for other people as well at the same time. Those examples are absolutely everywhere. And, greed is another thing. I mean, greed is a terrible thing, and I think a lot of the time that is our biggest downfall. We all have failings. I mean, as history has taught us, we all have failings. Greed brings destruction, and compassion brings liberty and prosperity. I mean, that's what this country was actually founded on, was liberty for all, and every man is treated equal. Although I think that's kind of changed a lot these days.
It has changed a lot.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's how do you look at that? I mean, children practice compassion through involvement. Research on positive effects of class projects and after-school activities that develop compassion continues to grow. Scouts, church groups, and programs like Generations on Kids Care Clubs provide excellent ways for children to learn skills and practice compassion in their communities. And like you said, John, I think there is a lot of that going on. We highlight our heroes of the week a lot of the time, and they have great compassion for the causes that they believe they should be fighting for.
And we love too that they mix that compassion with creativity. Even though a lot of our heroes of the week might support similar causes sometimes, the way they approach those causes and the way they try to find solutions to the problems are always very unique ways. Mm-hmm. And we love that. And that has to come from somewhere. That has to come from, from the kids having good hearts. That comes from the parents, having good hearts and having set good examples for those kids. We talked about the sad circle of the mother at the grocery store. Well, our heroes of the week, I think, show us that there's a lot of goodness out there as well.
I think it's also interesting because we live in an age, we're living in the I generation. It's a generation where the iPhone, the iPads, the iPods, the Surfaces, and all that stuff are part of our children's lives. The kids, everybody's posting what parties they've been to, what vacations they're on, what, hourly locations they're at on Instagram or any other of these social media things. And I think, it's interesting that we have to really understand that portion of media is another thing that also should be treated with respect and knowing what you put out there as well. what and unfortunately, I think a lot of the time, when you're looking at things, we look at things that are sensational. Why is it that news? A lot of the time, we always hear a lot of the bad stuff. They save the little good thing, the little nugget, maybe for the end of the show. It's really, that's what it is, because we live in this thing of going, oh my God, they did that! I can't believe they did that. I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, that's the type of news that we're bringing out. We don't want to do that on this show. We're basically highlighting things that are good and things that, yes, the things that are bad as well. But the highlight of good is the focus of what the Peace Fund Radio is all about. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think with this iGeneration that's lived up, the TV shows that they're growing up with, they can become a celebrity. So with this narcissism that's there, this generation has become famous for this sense of entitlement. And I think sometimes, and we've talked about this on the show before, how a lot of the kids these days are entitled to think that, oh, there's no problem. They're going to be doing, they're going to be successful. They're going to be able to get a job when they get out because they're entitled. They believe that they see it on the media all the time. Don't think for a moment that this is a challenge that only wealthy parents have got to grapple with. It's not a question of rich kid problems. Time magazine actually reports that poor millennials have even higher rates of narcissism, materialism, and technology addiction. No one is actually safe in this.
That's a self-esteem issue, I think.
That's a what?
It's a self-esteem issue, I think.
Yeah, there's a self-esteem issue. I mean, it's most parents don't intend to spoil their kids. So, most parents take their kids to piano classes, museums, buy them cell phones, not with the intent to spoil them, but to give them a solidly well-rounded and well-provided childhood. But one unintended consequence is that the child may grow up into a selfish and narcissistic adolescence if the parent is not careful about how that technology and everything else is. I mean, your daughter uses technology to do some great stuff, I've seen.
Thank you. Yeah, she does. She likes to do art. She likes to play chess. She likes to do those kind of things on technology.
But
write stories, basically, draws.
So, for those of you listening, are you guilty? How are we as parents promoting entitlement? Does any of this sound familiar to any of you guys listening out there? Make sure your kids have access to all the latest iDevices anytime they want. They can be playing games on the iPad while you wash the car or chauffeur them around, and that way you won't even respond when you ask them about school or point out something interesting to them. You've got to actually restrict or control those items. Similarly, if they've got a phone at dinner, which I think is one of the worst things. I've seen this before. Have you never been there? We've walked into a restaurant and you watch two people at dinner and both of them are on their iPhones.
No, we don't allow that.
I'm like, wow.
You have to put your it's like going into Thunderdome. You have to place all your weapons at the weapons checkpoint. You can't bring them out at
exactly.
You can't bring them into the dinner table. It's like fighting on holy ground.
Yeah, I mean, and isn't that a lack of respect?
Yeah, it's a lack of respect.
It's really the lack of respect of being. I mean, I know I do it sometimes when I have a business call coming in, but I try not to do it.
A lot of us violate the policy in terms of business and making a living, but I think you're talking about a bigger cultural concept with the youth of today in terms of entitlement and what they think and what they see and what they think their values are and what they think they can do to achieve it, and basically the selling of American culture on flesh for the point of being famous, because that may solve your problems without being aware of what fame really does in most cases, I think is part of the problem. And that's why you see all these attempts of, selfies, and I think the idea that this kind of flashiness is going to solve your problems when it's really going to probably only add to them.
I think you as a parent have to constantly do everything in your power to prevent your kids from feeling pain. I mean, that's really our job. We have to stop that ourselves. It's not, and that includes any sort of discomfort, difficulty, or disappointment they're going to have later on in life. And this is something I think is very important. You've got to insist teachers raise their mediocre grades if they've got them. That way kids won't learn how to rise to challenge. They'll learn how to rise to challenges or handle their mistakes themselves. And they won't feel entitled that life is giving them a free ride, because that's one thing that I think is, and I've come across it before. It's that I think is one of the scariest things I think we're facing in a sense is these kids that come out of college and then, I'll get a job. Don't worry, I can do a YouTube video and I'll become an overnight sensation. Or
there is that philosophy that's going to save you, which is a wrong one. I think.
It is, and I think us as parents have to really sort of make sure that we push for our kids to have better grades. If they're failing in school, don't just go, well, okay, they're not that clever. I think every child, it's a known fact that somebody with talent that does not practice that talent, does not rehearse, does not work on that talent, will not be as good as somebody that doesn't have a talent but does work hard at it. Because it's a matter of process, not just a God-given talent that you get that you can automatically just use. You have to work at it. You don't think Kobe Bryant, is just naturally gifted. He never played basketball, and all of a sudden he gets on a court and starts playing, and he's brilliant.
I think kids do think that, though. I think
that's the point.
It's a natural gift, or it's pretty easy.
Yeah, but most people, I guarantee you, whenever you see athletes, when you see snowboarders, or you see athletes in the Olympics, and they make it look so easy. They run, they jump, they fly, they do all these amazing things, and you're like, wow, they're so good at this. They've got such a great talent. Yeah, they've got a talent, but they spent hours and hours and hours working at it.
Without a doubt.
So I think it's important for us to really sort of, be cognizant of that fact that we, don't let our children get so self-absorbed with themselves.
I think discipline is the answer to a lot of this. I think psychological and physical discipline solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Being in tune to the task at hand and what you need to do to build yourself up should be a priority. And manners and class along the way, of course.
The other thing is when you get your kids coming home from school, and they, I'm going to get to John in a second because I know we need to get to our Kid Hero of the Week, but we've been going on so many things we can get through here. And Bev Shahar is probably going, you've only gotten through like a quarter of the show so far. I'm like, yeah, but it's so much information to actually go through. I think we actually have to make sure that we don't we've got to listen to also what our children are saying. Sometimes a bad teacher can exist, and I think we have to sort of stand up. They're getting bad grades, and the kids don't like the teacher, then there's something got to be done about it. You've got to either, some teachers are tired too. They're teaching the same curriculum over and over and over again, that by the time they've done this for 20 years, I know this, I've spoken to some of them about this, they have curriculums that they teach every grade, every year, and by the time they get to having taught it 15 years, they're kind of bored with it, so they're going through the motions. And I think that really goes towards the kids as well. They actually pick up on that, and they're bored. They don't want to do anything. So I think we've got to listen to those things so that we're very aware of that. John, let's talk a little bit about Heroes of the Week right now.
Yes, speaking of compassion, from our very first hero of the week, Annalise Carr, whose record-breaking swim across Lake Ontario at age 14 was her first step in raising nearly $500,000 for pediatric cancer patients and their families, to more recent heroes like Kieran Schreeder, whose Waste No Food app connects restaurants and farmers with excess food to charities and organizations that are willing and able to distribute and deliver that food to families who need it. These kids are out there every day assisting and inspiring their peers. Today's hero story began when Christopher Cao, who's now a junior at Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in Alexandria, Virginia, was tutoring a younger student through a free tutoring program. This younger student confided in Christopher that he couldn't keep up with his studies and assignments because his family couldn't afford a computer at home. Now, Christopher, who started building his own computers when he was only 9 years old, recruited his friends Griffith Heller, Arun Bhattacharya, Tarun Singh, Peter Chow, Shrinkat Mishra, Samuel Kabadu, Nikol Bhattacharya, Kevin Cao, Wendy Chow, and Kevin Kwok to create an official 501c3 nonprofit organization called Reboot For Youth to increase educational opportunities for underprivileged youth through greater access to technology. You can find them at rebootforyouth.org. Christopher and his team accept used computers and laptops from individuals, schools, and businesses. They repair those computers, refurbish them, and deliver them to families who can't afford those devices for their children. They also preload them with educational software, everything the kids need for their studies and their classes. They've had more than 200 computers donated since November of 2014. Those computers are serving more than 500 kids every day, and they have also expanded across the globe. They have built a computer lab for 30 students and staff in Costa Rica. They have supplied computers for children and orphans who have suffered terrible mistreatment in their lives at a program in Lamu Island, Kenya. They have also supplied more than 200 computers to a school in Cambodia and laptops to a small community in Vietnam where the children don't have direct access to schools or even books to read. So for all of the incredible work that they have done to educate these kids who don't have access to the technology they need, Christopher Cao and his team at rebootforyouth.org are our latest Peace Fund Radio heroes of the week.
Awesome, John. Another great one that you brought us this week.
Yeah, fantastic.
Do you have any other updates for us while you're at it?
I always do. A quick thing for our friend Ethan. His 5th annual Combat Radio Christmas event for social services is on December 5th. You can support it at gofundme.com/a-combat-radio-christmas-5. There's also an interesting new way you might be able to help the Peace Fund. If you go to givingtuesday.org, which is advertising Giving Tuesday, which is coming around quickly on December 1st, you can find out about a contest that's going on right now. It's an essay contest where 2 third-place winners will win a $100 gift card and have $1,000 donated to the nonprofit organization that they talk about in their essay. 2 second-place winners will get $200 gift cards and $2,000 donated to the organizations, and 2 first-place winners will get $500 gift cards and have $5,000 donated to the organization of their choice that they speak about in their essay. If you would like to write an essay about the Peace Fund, you can do that by going to givingtuesday.org or looking up Giving Tuesday by Giving Tuesday on Facebook and Twitter. And also, of course, you can always go to thepeacefund.org to find out all the ways that you can support Peace Fund Radio and all of the various causes that we're working on right now, including our ongoing fundraiser for Livy Scheinman from livyshope.org.
Well,
thank you.
It's a great amount of updates there, John. I actually wanted to hark back to our hero of the week as well.
LivySoap.com, I'm sorry.
LivySoap.com. I want to jump back 2 seconds while you were talking there, John. We also are about to be creating a little initiative program on the Peace Fund. We have 100 Microsoft Surface tablets that we will be donating to schools that need them, and so we will in the Los Angeles area. So we will be looking at creating that initiative. You'll be looking. We'll be probably launching it next week, at the end of the week at another event, and we'll be bringing you that next week as we know more information as to where you can go to sign up and how we're going to actually be structuring that initiative. So that's something else that really sort of harps to our hero Christopher, who founded Reboot For Youth to increase educational opportunities for underprivileged children. So might have to have a little chat with him as well, John.
Yes, I guarantee he would know the best way to help. And also, if you go to their website, it's interesting. If you are, a company or an individual who would like to donate computers, or a family who needs a computer for your children and can't afford one, their website tells you everything that you need to do to take those steps. So we'll definitely be talking to Christopher about that soon.
All right, to wrap this up, we've been talking today about being compassionate and being respectful. It starts at the top, ladies and gentlemen. Your life must lead the way for the next generation. If you are shallow and self-serving, your children will emulate the same thing. So be generous, have a loving heart. No child left behind. Talk to your children about school. Do they notice the girl eating alone at lunch? Make sure that you're involved in what they do at school. And seniors rule. In most aspects of life, seniority rules at school and in your career. This should translate to grandma and grandpa as well. In most cultures, it does. In the American culture, it does not. That is unfortunate. You've got to teach your children to respect their elders. Positive impact. How can your compassion have meaningful results? That's a challenge to bring up and discuss with your kids. You want to have a positive impact? Give a homeless man $5 just to buy more booze is frustrating to many people. Instead, consider pre-making survival bags for the homeless. Ethan, you've dealt with that a lot before, so I know you've got great experience in doing that type of thing.
Yeah.
And turn the media tables, ladies and gents. Television and the internet are overflowing with bad examples for our kids, so let's turn it, make them positive, use the things that they can do, whether they can improve their lives. So these are just some of the things, and we could have actually, continued to be doing the same thing week in, week out. We could continue doing actually this show, because this show actually does have many, many things that we could be talking about. I haven't had the time, unfortunately, to really highlight a lot of them. So I'd like to finish with a quote. Bev gave me a quote this week, but I actually want to go back to the quote we actually had last week, because I think that talks about compassion and respect from a yoga teacher, Chapel Westlake. May you continue to see the beauty within yourselves and in others. May you have the courage to speak your own truths. And should your hearts ever be broken, with God's grace, may you have the wisdom to keep them open and love deeply. Thank you very much. We'll see you again next week.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.